Now all of the Chinese cores are safely under our control. It is still 1941, we have a very good industry, we have infinite manpower, we have good divisions which we are now going to make even better, and Japan is our puppet. We succeeded where the Mongols failed. Kami-Kaze didn't save Japan, this time it's China who dominates. Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. In the first episode of this series we started with Communist China as a small province in the middle of the mountains. No army and no economy. We are now controlling most of the Chinese cores, we have a huge army and our economy is growing fast. Despite that, the biggest challenge remains ahead of us. Japan is not going anywhere and we need to take back what is ours. So in today's video, I will first show you how to kick Japan out of our mainland, and then we will succeed where the Mongol failed, and invade Japan ourselves to end the war. If that sounds interesting, then this is the right video for you. Before we start, however, I would like to tell you a little story, directly related to the title of this video. Feel free to skip ahead if you're not interested. Now, in modern times, the word Kami-Kaze has unfortunately become notorious for suicide terror attacks. But I'm sure many of you already know that it is a Japanese word, and that it was used in World War II to describe Japanese pilots flying quite literally into the American fleet, ending the lives of their targets as well as their own. What you might not know is that the origin of the term is actually much older than that. Around the end of the 13th century, the Mongol Empire attempted one of the few invasions in the history of Japan. However, after the initial success, the Mongol fleet was wiped out by a violent typhoon, which allowed Japan to defeat the invaders and protect the mainland. The Japanese believed in the divine origin of this wind, which saved them from the Mongols. And so they called it the Wind of God. The word for God in Japanese is Kami, and the word for wind is Kaze, hence Kami-Kaze. Now, this is a cool little story, and I hope you enjoyed it. But there will be no divine wind saving the Japanese from us this time. Now, let's get things done before Mao becomes impatient. Of course, as usual, if you have been following the channel and enjoying the content I make, please do not forget to support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any doubts or suggestions for further improvements. That being said, let's start back where we left, exactly where we left. Of course, if you haven't watched the first episode of this run, make sure to do so and see exactly how we got to this point. I will also include a link to the playlist in the description of the video. So we can pick back up exactly where we left, which was after defeating China and the remaining warlords. We tricked Japan in the peace conference with an amazing strategy, and we were able to take actually everything from China and leave nothing to Japan. But the Japanese will not be very happy, as you can imagine, about that. So we need to prepare for the biggest challenge, which will be to fight Japan. And for that, we're also going to use another amazing trick. Now, if you look at the focus tree, there are several options here on the left, and we chose the middle one, the central one. Now, the left one is very useful because it allows you to join the Comintern, to join the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union is, of course, of great help when you need to fight Japan. While the central one creates our own faction. Right now we are in the mutual assistance block. Which is cool, but nobody will really join our faction, and nobody will help us against Japan. So that's bad, except we have the perfect solution for that, and it's a very simple one. We go here, we dismantle our faction. We offer a non-aggression pact to the Soviet Union, we start improving relations, and very soon, as you can see, we will be able to join their faction, the Comintern, and they will be of massive help when it comes to fighting Japan. Now, at the end of this guide, you will see once again another trick about peace conferences. Let's say that this Communist China guide is a masterclass, if I may, on peace conferences, because first we take everything from Japan without leaving them nothing, and then you will see what happens with the final peace conference. Now, the other thing we want to do at this point is we want to check the focus that we are researching currently, and 24 days is not that much, so I'm actually going to cancel it because our next absolute priority is proclaim the People's Republic of China. So we're going to pick that one instead. If your focus is almost completed at this point, you can finish it and then do this one, but this has a higher priority. We're going to force deploy the infantry army that we were recruiting, and we're going to recruit another 24 infantry divisions. Now at this point we can also finally upgrade the artillery and the infantry equipment, which we had been delaying for a while. In terms of production, we're going to set the artillery to 10 and everything else goes to infantry equipment. We also want to start making some convoys. Then we want to build infrastructures and tier 4 forts at the border with Japan. So I usually build them only in the area of Beijing, so something like this. In future we can use our civilian factories to build more military factories in the high percentage provinces. Finally, we're actually going to start claiming one of the Japanese puppets. That shouldn't be needed because usually Japan immediately starts justifying on us and then they will declare war on us, which is a bit better because a defensive war is better than an offensive war in terms of malices. But in case Japan doesn't fabricate a claim on us, we will start a war with Japan more or less at the same time. Now we need to set up our armies for the war against Japan, and for that we're going to select the main infantry, the best infantry we have. I give them a fallback line to cover the area of Beijing. A fallback line because Japan doesn't call all of the puppets at war at the same time, and so we cannot actually have a front covering all three. Another army, again we use a fallback line, we start from here and we go along the rivers to decrease the front a little bit, but especially to have the best possible front to protect. So a fallback line like this, we leave this land to the Japanese, it doesn't really matter. The remaining two armies will be needed to protect the coast from naval invasions. Japan will trigger and attempt a lot of naval invasions, so I usually set these armies to protect only naval bases and coastline, and I assign one to the northern part of China, so one to this area, and the second one to this area here. Now you would also have to adjust trade, but since we were a bit late with the end of the war, we can already pick export focus at this point, unless you already decided to go for export focus earlier. In this way, we will need to import a bit less stuff, but we don't need tungsten at all, and we need less steel. So now it's when export focus starts being significantly better than free trade, because now we do have resources. So in this way, we don't lose all of them to trade. And with that, our setup is already done. We can ask the Soviet Union kindly to join the Comintern, and that's perfect. So now the Soviet Union will help us against Japan. Let's see if the Japanese are scared enough not to claim us at all, in which case we will declare war on them, no problem. World War II is starting, but of course we do not care very much. I do want the last army to be ready as soon as possible, so I will actually force deploy them. So we create the 5th army. We don't have any more commanders, so I'm going to promote one of the field commanders for this one. And we can send this last army also to the front in Beijing and train them. At 150 political power, I'm going to pick the war industrialist so that we can build our military factories a bit faster. Of course, before we start a war on Japan, we want all of the forts to be ready. And by the way, even if Japan justifies on you right away, it will take them 150 days to get the claim. So we do have enough time in any case to prepare. By the way, it's totally possible to do this even without the Soviet Union. But the Soviet Union is going to help and speed up the war massively. Now, in terms of infantry equipment MIO, like for artillery, we are going to use a slightly different priority, prioritizing, once again, the production efficiency gain and the output. Now, since Japan is too scared of us, unfortunately, we need to declare war on them, so we'll take some slightly bigger malices. That's okay, I just want my divisions to be fully trained for that. Okay, I think we are ready. Our divisions are trained. Basically, if Japan is not fabricating on you, you're entirely free on when to declare war on them. So we're going to do it right now. And of course, we need to call the Soviet Union to help us immediately. Okay, now also, since all of the puppets officially joined the war, we can actually have a proper front line, which is going to be much, much better. And the other thing we can do right away is we can take war bonds. Actually, no, you would be able to take war bonds if Japan declared war on you. But since we declare war on them, the war support is a bit lower. Okay, at 100 political power, we're going to pick the ground support advisor. Of course, we don't have any air force, so that air superiority is completely useless. The only reason why we pick this is for the air experience. We will need it later, so we need to start farming some air experience. Okay, attempted naval invasion. You need to keep an eye on the naval invasions, but with this setup, the Japanese should never be able to disembark. Actually, It's a bit cheesy, but it would be slightly better to let them disembark and then kill them rather than stopping them right away, like we are doing here. Because in that way you destroy a lot of their divisions. We are not going to use that tactic, but it would be convenient. Okay, now everyone is fully trained, the front is more or less stabilized. At this point we are going to start pushing into the occupied Japanese territories, and we want to do it along the coastline here. So the first idea is to get this part, which is controlled directly by Japan, and we're going to do it with our main best offensive army. The Japanese don't actually have that many divisions in here. And now as soon as we research the anti-air, we are going to start producing some. We're actually going to bring the production of both artillery and anti-air to 15, and we're going to take those factories all from infantry equipment, so something like this. And then we're also immediately going to add the support anti-air, well, immediately, as soon as you have the army experience, add the support anti-air to your infantry divisions. As you can see, the Japanese are busy on too many fronts, and they are suffering a lot in here. So after this first initial push, we continue from here. And what we want to take is the coastline with a little bit of a buffer area. So we want to push basically to these two supply hubs in here, the railways connecting them, and cut off the Japanese forces in this area. And pushing the Japanese in here is surprisingly easy. Now at this point, if you can, you should pick war bonds, but if you cannot, because you had to declare war on Japan, you should pick exhort heroism to decrease the combat casualties malus to war support, which as you can see is quite big. It's minus 30%. That's going to help. And now our very small divisions, they are still using the same 8 combat with 4 infantry divisions, are surprisingly good, especially in these low supply areas. And with superior firepower, giving them some soft attack from the support companies, these divisions actually perform very well. Of course, if you're wondering why don't we make bigger divisions in terms of width, it's not because these ones are very good, but it is because we need numbers. We need to have armies protecting the coastline. We need to have armies protecting from the Japanese in here. So it's very, very important that we have enough armies. It's actually more important to have enough armies than to have big ones. Okay, when you think this army is ready, you can start pushing on this side too. Just to keep the Japanese under as much pressure as possible. As we start destroying some of their divisions too. Very nice. Now this first push was very successful. What we want is, we want to keep the pressure up in Korea. So we keep pushing from here. And we go for something like this. We do want to get Pyongyang. And look at how easy it seems to push Japan with China by using this strategy. It's quite amazing. At this point we want to rearrange our divisions a little bit and we want to push into Korea. So basically we need one army for this front, one army for this front, and one army to push into Korea. This army, we can start planning an offensive line with them for later on. And here we can just literally push, because the Japanese don't have that many divisions. They are not really properly organized. Yeah, look at this. Now these divisions will get completely destroyed. That's why it's good for sometimes to let them disembark. Not that I did it on purpose, but the Japanese will lose some more divisions in here for sure. Destroyed, and Korea is now under our control. Amazing. Okay, now we do want to get rid of some of these Japan up here. And the Japanese are not in a good position at the moment, so we can keep pushing with our offensive army in here. We can try to push for the next supply hub, which I believe is that one. At 150 political power, you can pick the industrial concern. The fact that they are no longer trained is mostly because the artillery, the anti-air, is being produced and added to them. It's not because of the casualties. It's time for Japan to suffer. And suffering they are. Okay, once you complete the paratroopers research, which by the way is a big spoiler as to how we're going to get to Japan, what we want to do is we want to start recruiting 7 paratroopers, but we also want to edit the template a little bit. Now we don't have a lot of army experience at the moment. But what we want is a combat width of 10, and then we want to add the support artillery and the support anti-air, although at the moment we cannot do that, so for now we'll not do it. And then we want to recruit 7 paratroopers, which is the maximum paratroopers divisions. And we also want to start producing some transport planes. We're going to assign 5 factories to them, and we're going to take them from infantry equipment. Make sure to adjust the trade. Things are falling apart quite quickly now for Japan. Also, they don't have any harbors in here, so this is going to be very painful for them. We do need to pay attention to this. Okay, where is this naval invasion? Thank you, Japan. That's very kind of you to organize a naval invasion exactly where I had most of my divisions. Also with 1 division. That's a massive naval invasion. The scary one. What is this guy doing? What are you doing? What is your plan? What is this? Why? Oh my god. Stop immediately. Wait, who is he? He's one of them. No. Ah, okay. He's one of the guys set to area defense. And why do you want to do that exactly? So you only need to protect harbors. And there are no harbors there. What the hell are you doing? Amazing. Amazing stuff. Funny thing is, this guy randomly walking into the Japanese front actually found the spot. Look at that. He was able to push. Amazing. At this point, in terms of focuses, there isn't that much else useful that you can pick. So I usually go for air production. Very soon we are going to start massively producing our planes, our F1, as soon as we complete this research here. So only 80 days left. And that's probably the most beneficial focus. Although, right now, maybe I will go for army training, just for now. So we train our divisions a little bit faster. Our political power from now on is basically free, as well as civilian factories. I would use them to build more military factories, of course, in the highest provinces available. I love these naval invasions with 1 division. These are amazing. As soon as you complete the Engines 3 research, it is time to start designing our fighter. And we're going for a bit of a hybrid version, because we don't have the improved small airframe yet, but we already have the Engines 3 and we already have the heavy machine guns. So for our F1 design, we're going for something like this. Make sure to make it auto upgrade, so we can save this design. And we can start producing it, and we want to produce a lot of them. So we're going to decrease the production of artillery and infantry equipment to only 10, and everything else goes into F1. We're also going to pick the air spirits before we pick the doctrines. And then as soon as possible, we're going to pick the doctrines as well. Then we want to build infrastructures and air bases in South Korea. And that's going to be our highest priority at the moment. At this point, we also want to force deploy and train our paratroopers divisions. And we can also set them up in Korea. Finally, we're breaking the Japanese also on this side. They have so many divisions in here, it's crazy. The good thing is all of these divisions will be completely destroyed very soon. At this point of the war, depending on how it went, you may be able, especially on how the Soviet Union does, you may be able to kick out Japan, kill Japan completely in here. Oh, perfect timing to invade Korea. Just send my armies over. They don't have harbors, so they cannot send away these divisions. They're completely stuck in here. These guys are going completely crazy with the front line, of course. That was to be expected. Okay, so as soon as we complete the improved small airframe, we can adjust the production of F1 and we can change them into the usual F2 design we always make. We add another heavy machine gun and we add the extra fuel tanks. We can save it and we can start producing it. However, at this point, we can also do something else. We can deploy all of our planes in here. And we should already have a fair amount of fighters. Not that many. But they might already be enough. Because now we're going to use a little trick in here. Our paratroopers are actually almost trained, so we can wait a little bit longer. And then as soon as they are trained, we can start triggering the invasion of Japan. But it should be enough even now. So if you want, you can start triggering the invasion of Japan now. Now let me talk about something important at this point. If we wait a bit longer, Japan will declare war on the United States. That's not a big deal, although the United States will have a little bit of the war score at the end. That's fine. The main difference is if you wait a bit longer, Vichy France will probably give Vietnam to Japan. So the Japanese will be in here. Which is cool. We can use one of the defensive armies we have in here to take it, and then in the peace conference we can also claim Vietnam. So up to you. You can prolong the war a little bit longer, or you can try to invade Japan as soon as possible. Okay, Japan did declare war on the Philippines. Now let's see if they ask Vichy France to give them Vietnam. Now, of course, this was a brilliant idea of Japan. They don't have divisions. All of their divisions are actually stuck in here, and they are all going to die. But I thought declaring war on the United States was a brilliant idea. Ah, by the way, guys, this would also be a good time to take Tibet if you want, to take Siam if you want. You just claim them and then you try to take them in the peace conference. However, I will talk about this more in detail a bit later. I would prefer to focus all of the war score that we have, and that, remember, we already have to share with the Soviet Union. We got about 60%, but the Soviet Union still has a bit. I would focus all of it on taking as much as possible from Japan, especially on taking the Japanese Navy. Okay, our paratroopers are ready, they are trained, so we can start planning this invasion of Japan. And I will do it with groups of 2, with paratrooping, and we want to take Nagasaki. So we send them all around Nagasaki in the hope that at least some of them will be able to be deployed, let's say. So we assign all of them, and then what is the idea? What is the trick here? So we deploy all of our planes. And we don't have enough fighters to get the air superiority. But if you click here and you start the invasion with paratroopers, and then you keep switching, like from here, 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 at some point you get the air superiority, especially if the Soviet help. We need Vladivostok because Vladivostok has some airfields which the Soviets can use to send their planes to Japan. We do need their planes in Japan. Okay. Now the Japanese are fully kicked out from everywhere. It's getting closer because the Soviets are sending their planes now. Now we got green. And we are disembarking. Okay, this is very good. So as soon as you kick the Japanese out, the Soviets will help with the air superiority, and you will get to Japan. And as soon as you get to Japan, you take Nagasaki, and that's basically a GG. Okay, now that our paratroopers are in Nagasaki, we can keep using them to expand in Kyushu. As we send over, of course, our infantry divisions, we can stop training them now and we can send them over. Now, of course, at this point of the war, the Japanese have as many as 31 to 58 divisions, a huge amount of divisions. And we can send the infantry mostly in the northern area of Japan with the order to push directly for Tokyo. But at this point, it's just a formality to take down Japan. Of course, Germany will attack the Soviet Union, and we are in a faction with them. So that's a question for later. Let's see. For now, we don't care that much. Later on, if you decide that you want to help the Soviet Union, you can get involved in World War II. You can send your divisions to fight Germany, or you can simply ignore the Soviet Union. You can leave their faction, and nobody forces us to help them against Germany. So that's entirely up to you. Tokyo is about to fall, and with it, Japan. Okay, Tokyo is taken. Now, this is the end of the war. This wasn't the smoothest, by the way. I tested this run several times, and I was often able to finish the war much earlier than October. But still, it's only 1941, October 1941, and as China, we were able to take back all of China and defeat Japan. Now, this is not over because there is a very interesting peace conference ahead of us. As always, before a peace conference, I recommend making a save. And as you can see here, in my last test run from the save, Japan was almost down on the 8th of July, so a lot earlier than this. But again, there is a bit of RNG. Especially, the Soviet Union performed very poorly in this case, and they lost Vladivostok, and China took a very long time to capitulate. So the combination of those two things slowed us down a little bit. I mean, it's only a couple of months. In the end, it doesn't change that much. Now, let's talk about the peace conference. Now, we got 66% of the war score, which is actually very high. Although this is not always the case. We had particularly high casualties, which with China are amazing, because it means higher war score, and we have manpower to afford them. Also, we were fast enough for the United States not to have any war score at all, so it will be only us and the Soviet Union. Now, let me talk about this peace conference because this is interesting. Even if you didn't have that much war score, you can completely ignore everything which is our core, which is everything in here except for North and South Korea. Because this stuff, the Soviet Union will kindly give it to us. So they will spend their own points to give these states to us. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to annex Korea. This is going to be a priority. And then I usually puppet Japan. Taiwan is also our core. Let's not say too much about this, but Taiwan is a core of China. And then let's make sure that we puppet all of mainland Japan and Okinawa, where I will be on vacation when you watch this video. What I would do at this point is I would try to take as much of the Japanese navy as possible. We don't have a navy, and basically in this way we will get not only a navy, but a pretty decent navy. So that's awesome. We can also take the Finnish amazing navy. Okay, last round of the peace conference. As you can see, we can take entirely the navy. Then, of course, if you claim Tibet or Siam, if Vichy France gave Vietnam to Japan, then you also have those things that you can puppet or annex for yourself. That's entirely up to you, but in my opinion, the best possible thing we can do is to take entirely the Japanese navy, so that we have a navy for the rest of the run if we decide to continue it. And then with the remaining points, you can add resource rights and war reparations to Japan. Look at this. It's amazing that all of this stuff, instead of wasting our points, the Soviet Union is wasting their points to give it to us. That's why I say that this guide is very interesting for peace conferences. Because we had 2 peace conferences in both. We didn't have the entirety of the war score, and we got way more than we were supposed to. So that is it. We can confirm and close it. Now all of the Chinese cores are safely under our control. It is still 1941. We have a very good industry. We have infinite manpower. We have good divisions, which we are now going to make even better. And Japan is our puppet. We succeeded where the Mongols failed. Kami-Kaze didn't save Japan. This time it's China who dominates. Now, before we end the video, let me just show you what I usually do to my infantry template after kicking out Japan. In this case, we were a bit late and we were already invading Japan, so I didn't have enough time to change the template. I didn't want to do it while invading Japan. I would add 5 infantry battalions to bring the total combat width to 18. And then I would add the 1st artillery battalion for a total combat width of 21. And this template starts being pretty decent. And that's it. If you want to continue this run, you have plenty of options. Nobody can compete with us. We can decide to help the Soviet Union against the German Reich and the Axis. Or we can just abandon them to their fate and just leave the faction and mind our own business. We are free to do whatever we want. So guys, this was a lot of work. It may look easy actually if you look at the strategy this way, and that's always the aim for my strategies. They must look easy, they must be easy and consistent. Even a newer player should be able to achieve this strategy without too many issues. Of course, Communist China is a bit more challenging compared to other strategies I made before. But the fact that we were pretty unlucky in this run and we still got it done by October 1941 shows how consistent the strategy is. If you enjoyed the video and the run, please do not forget to support the channel by liking the video, subscribing to the channel and leaving me a comment. It really helps, and it is also very gratifying for me to see your comments and to see that you actually enjoyed the run or that the guide itself was useful for you. In the upcoming weeks, I will be making a few short guides dedicated to doctrines, spirits, and templates. And then, of course, we need to decide what is next in terms of country guides. I will probably start a new poll on the channel, so you can pick yourself the favorite country to cover next. Guys, if you stayed with me until now, as usual, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.